Hi everybody. The topic of today's video is why caregivers can't call in sick. A lot of caregivers are saying, oh Pamela, I feel like I have to do this. I don't feel good today, but I still have to go on. What do I do? How do I do this? Caregivers many times refuse to seek medical care because there's nobody to care for their loved one, an elderly parent or a spouse. And many of you tell me, oh, I'm not sick enough, I don't need to go to the doctor yet. But yet you're caring for someone who is sick and has a lot of needs. You may be taking them to doctor appointments. And the motivating factor is you don't want them to get sicker. And honestly, you don't want them to die, right? But yet you're putting yourself in a similar position of being stressed and having health issues, not realizing that not taking care of yourself could put you in the position of your parent who needs care, or could put you in the position of your parent who has a very serious health issue and they're on their way to end-of-life care. I'm Pamela D. Wilson. My website is PamelaDWilson.com. On there, a lot of hope, help, and support for caregivers and aging adults. And in these videos, conversations to help all of us look at both sides of caregiving situations. So please visit my website, PamelaDWilson.com. A lot of hope, help, and support there. How many of you avoid going to the doctor because you're afraid of receiving bad news? So let's take this to an extreme. When you think of death being the worst thing that can happen to any of us in life, is going to the doctor really that scary if all you find out is that you have high blood pressure or high cholesterol or high blood sugar, which results in diabetes? Now, I'm not discounting any of those chronic diseases because they are serious, right? But the benefit is if you go to the doctor and you find out, you can do something about it. You can lower your blood pressure, lower your blood sugar, lower your cholesterol, feel better. But until you really know what's wrong, you can't do anything about it, right? So being afraid to go to the doctor is kind of this illogical thing that we all have to get over our fears about, because why not solve a problem if you can? Why let it get worse and to the point where it really becomes a huge, huge problem? No need to do that. So we're going to talk for a minute about why caregivers really must seek medical care and resources, because the ability to access health services and even social services has a huge effect on your daily life and the lives of the people that you care for. It's kind of like, if you watch TV, you see all these Medicare commercials, right? Saying, Joe Namath or whoever it is, saying, you got to find out what your benefits are. Call this number, call whatever. You may be entitled to A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Well, it's the same for you, the caregiver, and your parents. There are a lot of community and social benefits out there. There are a lot of medical benefits out there. But you have to ask, you got to pick up the phone, you have to call, you got to talk to people. And the problem is a lot of times you don't feel like you have time. I understand. Make time, because the benefits of making that time can save you a lot of time. It's kind of like, people who say, well, I don't have time to make a project list, or I don't have time to schedule on my calendar, right? And it's like, well, if you don't have time to do that, then you don't have time to save yourself time. You don't have time to save yourself money. You're just kind of spinning your wheel and you're on this treadmill and you're going and going and going and going, and you feel like there's no solution. Well, the solution is right here in front of you. It's asking for help. It's investigating services. It's finding out what's available, because honestly, there's so much available out there. Where do you look? A lot of places. My website, PamelaDWilson.com. Talk to the nurses. Talk to the staff in your parent's doctor's office, a health clinic. There are plenty of community service providers for diseases. So the American Heart Association, Alzheimer's Association, Diabetes Association. A lot of resources out there. So why don't caregivers do that? Why do they feel that they can't call in sick, right? Exhaustion, depression, feeling isolated, feeling lonely, low self-esteem. When we don't feel good about ourselves or what we're doing because we're so exhausted, we don't have the energy to do anything else, right? This is why caregivers feel like they can't call in sick and you're on this treadmill of like, circling the drain. But imagine what it would be like to take a sick day where instead of actually being sick, you take a play day like you did when you were a child and you didn't have a care in the world and you went outside and you played all day and you came back at night and you were exhausted and you went to bed. Wouldn't that be really cool? Think about taking a sick day that really turns out to be a play day. Isn't it time? Isn't it beyond that time for you? Research, a lot of research out there about how burnout and exhaustion and social factors can negatively affect health. And social factors are, have you given up your friends? Have you given up social activities? And are there issues with either you or the person that you care for? Lacking common things like, how do you get to the doctor appointment? Who's going to take your parent? Are there issues with the car? Can your parents not drive the car? Then we have other really practical and serious issues like your parents are on a limited income. Do they have enough money to pay for their prescriptions, or are you having to do that? These are everyday realities that caregivers struggle with. On the prescription front, there are prescription drug plans out there. There are discount cards. There are a lot of things. And I know I'm just talking about prescriptions right now, but this same thing with prescriptions applies to a lot of other things. But again, you have to investigate them. I heard a story the other day which surprised me. And again, I don't know if it's true because you never know what people put on the internet, right? I'm saying that while I'm doing videos for you, but I have 20 years of experience doing this. So I heard a story about a woman who rode the bus all day, every day. And the bus driver said, well, gosh, where are you going? You never seem to get off the bus. You're just here. And she said, well, you know what? I can't afford to pay my heating bill at home. I have to keep the heat at, 50 degrees, 55 degrees, and it's really cold there. So I come to ride the bus so I can be warm. And it also allows me to socialize, to talk to people who are going to work and going places. And so it's a good experience for me. So don't you find it interesting that this woman found a creative solution? So you can look at this two ways. You can say, oh my gosh, poor woman, she has to get on the bus to do this, right? Because she can't pay her heating bill. But look at it from the other way is she found a solution, right? Not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. But doing that gave her warmth, and it also gave her social connections, which are so important to caregivers. So there's a lot of reasons that caregivers feel like they can't take sick days, they can't make time to go to the doctor for themselves, they don't have time to investigate services. And I understand that, but it's so important for your overall care situation. There's a lot of reasons that we all feel like we have to keep going. But in the end, think about, does this keep going if you're not doing it in a creative or a protective manner? Does it harm yourself more in the short and the long term? It's hard to see this when there are so many checkoffs on your list that you have to do and people who depend on you. Caregivers are like another television commercial. Remember that Energizer bunny who just keeps going and going and going, and eventually the bunny just burns out, right? I encourage you, don't let your batteries run out. Take a sick day, but make it a play day. Make time for yourself, even if you feel like you can't, even if you feel like you have to find somebody else to take care of your loved one because you can't leave them alone. As caregivers, it's important to take care of yourself so that your health doesn't start to fail, so that you don't become the person that you're caring for who needs care. And never feel embarrassed or afraid or that you can't seek help or support because it's out there. It exists. You just have to open the door and believe that you can find it. A lot of help and support on my website, PamelaDWilson.com. Hundreds of videos here on YouTube answering questions caregivers ask. Please follow my channel. Please share it with other people that you know who are looking for hope, help, and support. And plan that sick/play day. Thanks for being here. I'll see you all again soon in another video.